few minutes ago, I wrapped up a conversation I had with Dr. Michael Boss of Marble Collegiate Church in New York City, and I want to share that conversation, that Zoom call that I had with him, with all of you.
Hey,
There you are.
oh, sorry about that. I had a conference call going on.
No worries, no
Oh,
worries.
it is. It's the whole day is staring at a screen like this.
Right. Do you have pants on today? Or are you just look nice from the waist?
No, I had a suit coat on even earlier. We shot Sunday sermon earlier today.
Okay.
So I had to get a little spruced up. We're doing it all from our home.
Full disclosure, I do have on shorts. So
Good. I wish I could. It's too cold here yet.
Right. Well, so you're shooting everything from home. We actually made that decision to do that. We could go up to the church and shoot different things, but we decided that the best way to model staying at home is for our staff to actually stay at home.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I'm recording this, and I'm hoping to be able to share this with folks. So
Sure.
Anyway. I want to introduce you. You're Dr. Michael Boss, my good buddy at Marble Collegiate Church up in New York City, kind of the epicenter of all this.
It is. It is right now. I mean, that will change, but right now the tri-state area really is getting hit hard.
Right. And like your church is Marble Collegiate Church,
Right.
Very historic church in New York. Donald Trump's been married there. It's a church Norman Vincent Peale pastored for many years.
Yes.
And now senior pastor Dr. Michael Boss.
Yeah, it's such a special community. It really is. And part of our good fortune is that we have Marble Collegiate Church, but also the Collegiate Church also has 3 other churches. Fort Washington Collegiate Church, Middle Collegiate Church, and West End Collegiate Church, and then Intersections International. So it really helped when facing this crisis, this pandemic, to be able to turn to those churches, to one another and say, how do we handle this? What are we doing? What are you doing? And we were able to make some collective decisions together. I think it's harder. I don't know how you faced it, if within your diocese, or did you need to make the decision on your own?
Well, so see, that's it's interesting that you asked that, because when you and I met, you were at West End Collegiate.
That's right. Yeah.
Of course, I'm part of the United Methodist Church and the Rio, Texas Conference of United Methodist Churches, and so we're very much a connectional church. So we reach out to each other, and that's actually one of the reasons I was recording this, in the hopes that your experience in New York, you guys are a couple of weeks ahead of us, really,
Yes.
in how this is going, and wanted to be able to get your insights so that I could then help share those with our conference, with our districts, with others, and not just within the Methodist Church, but it's been something that we've been talking a lot about, and discussions about how do we do Holy Communion,
Yes.
some of the theological aspects and things that this has caused some issues with, and also how do we be the church in the face of this? We're telling people to stay home, but at the same time, there are some folks I know in New York and here in Victoria, Texas, we have a large homeless population. How do you deal with telling people to stay home that have no home to go to? I don't know if that's something that you all have addressed there at Marble or not.
No, it's difficult. I mean, on the one hand, if there's any counsel, it would be this: is start early. What we've all done, I think, is we're in disbelief. It's almost surreal that this could happen to us. And as long as life seems normal, we just continue with daily life as is, feeling somewhat immune to it because we don't know of any cases around us. But that's the perfect place to begin and practice social distancing, washing your hands, maybe even wearing a mask. I know it might seem like overkill, but when it's not present is the time to take those steps. Once it becomes present, it becomes very hard to stop. Because what are they saying now? Up to 25% of the people are asymptomatic. So it means that they can transmit this without even knowing they have it.
Mm-hmm.
So unlike SARS and MERS in the past, where it was only really passable from one to another when people showed the symptoms, this is being spread before people know they have the symptoms, which makes it so dangerous. And being in the epicenter here right now, and again, other places will become that, when you begin to have friends that have it, and you just get the scare, and then you have friends on the ventilator. And I just got contacted this morning with a friend who's on the ventilator, and it's uncertain whether they'll make it.
Mhm.
You realize how important it is to take steps immediately and early to really help prevent the spread of this.
Right. Well,
Flatten the curve.
and that's kind of what I think we're seeing here in a lot of places. I know from us in Victoria, I think we're starting to take it semi-seriously. I mean, and I say that we've got cases here. I think 20 cases here in Victoria, and we're not a large city, but 20 cases here in Victoria, which is a pretty sizable number for our size. But still, I'm not sure. I mean, local governments are taking it seriously and putting things into place, but I don't know. I think we're taking it semi-seriously, but to take your advice, hopefully we will start to take this very seriously, and not take it very seriously too late.
Yes, and you don't want to respond from a place of fear. That isn't the point. But you do want to be measured, very measured. And this is one of the few times that we see, and we talk about this in Christian community all the time, that we're interdependent and interconnected, and what we do impacts the lives of others. I mean, literally, our smallest of actions now have outsized consequences for others. Our choice to go into public when we could practice social distancing, our choice to spend time in an office with someone, for a half hour, our choice to have a choir rehearsal or to have a gathering and think, well, it's just a few people, it's okay, has outsized consequences now. I'm thinking about the choir. I think it was March 10th. They really debated, do we meet or not meet? Was it in Minneapolis? And so they decided, we're going to go ahead, we're going to meet 60 of us. They practiced some distancing, but they sang. And now, of the 60, last I read, 45 of them now are infected with COVID-19.
Right.
So it really is a dangerous virus.
Right. And it's tough to try and get people to stay. I mean, we're just not programmed to be alone, especially those of us that I think in this faith. My wife might disagree. I think she's very much programmed to be alone. But I think so many of us in this faith community feel like we need to be doing something. We need to be out. We need to be clothing the naked. We need to be feeding the hungry. And we're trying to figure out ways to do those things, but do them responsibly. Do you have any thoughts on
yeah, there's still a lot going on. So we've been kind of petitioning with the food pantries in New York City to implore the governments to keep them open. It's really critical for the people you mentioned on the streets. Sister Ministry West End, I understand that they have a feeding program, and rather than having people in, they were making the meals to pick up in a bag. So it's kind of like the whole takeout concept, right, so that people have food. Because really, the vulnerable among us are becoming even more vulnerable.
Right. Well, and that's, you mentioned that here in Victoria, and these numbers are going to sound very low to you in New York, but we have a place called Christ's Kitchen that actually our church, First United Methodist Church in Victoria, was very instrumental in starting back in the mid-'80s. And it's a daily kitchen, a place for folk. There I go, touching my face. It's a important place for our community to be able to go and get a hot meal. And, they served a couple hundred traditionally. Last I saw, they were serving over 600 a day, which wow, is more than double. And what's difficult is getting enough, the need for volunteers has gone up because of the number that are being served, but also it's close quarters and serving and preparing meals. And we're almost in a catch-22 of we need this, but we can't do this.
Yeah, it is. And in fact, even in New York City, just trying to keep something open or do something, just taking transportation to get there puts people at risk. Right. Initially, the subways were running and they were keeping them on schedule, even though there's very few people in the city. And so the subway cars could be empty. You could practice a safe social distance. But unfortunately, MTA employees are calling in. They can't be there to help run the subway, so they have to limit the number of trains that can run, which means people are packed into cars. And it's hard because some people they have no choice but to go to work. They can't work from home. And if if they're essential employees and they can go to work, they want to go to work, they need to go to work for all kinds of reasons. And it's just dangerous getting there, let alone being out and about in general.
Right. Well, so let me ask you this, and I meant to ask this early on, but how are you doing? How's your family doing? How's Tina and the kids? Are you? I mean, where are the kids?
Well, so our daughter and son-in-law live in the city on the Upper West Side. They've moved out with us now. So they're staying with us. We're in Jersey.
Right.
We have a place there. So we're staying there, and we're all safe and sound and cloistered in this home. And it's good to be together, really. We get lots of walks in, but everybody's safe and doing well. My son's in New Mexico with his wife, and they're doing well. They're practicing the social distancing and just staying inside, limiting contact with anybody to the degree they can to make sure they're safe and sound. How about you and your family?
Good. We are, I've got our two that are in college at Southwestern University. They're here. So if they, walk past or something, they're here, and we're all safe. And our oldest daughter, who lives in Houston, which is only about an hour and a half away from us, that's been the hardest part. Her and her husband are there, and our granddaughter, and so that's been tough. Is having to just do video and pictures, and they're great about sending us those things, but just doing the video. And I'll tell you, Michael, and this is where it's real. Is we had the conversation with them the other day. They said, can we just make that hour and a half drive on Easter and just be there for Easter? Y'all have been quarantined. We've been quarantined. And it just wasn't responsible for us to say yes. We, as hard as that was to tell our daughter and son-in-law and granddaughter that we haven't seen in weeks and weeks, which has seemed like forever.
Yeah.
No, we can't do that. That's not what we're called to do as a community that loves our neighbors.
Yeah, and you're really right. Right now in this moment, practicing social distancing, doing the right thing, keeping isolated from one another, as hard as it is, really is a Christian witness right now, that we care not only about our health, but about your health. And we're going to take every step we can to make sure we're all safe.
Right. Well, let me ask you this: how are y'all staying connected within your congregation, within your church community, not just outside of the church community, but also it's so important for us to stay connected inside the church. What are some things that y'all are putting in place and doing to stay connected?
Yeah, we have several things. So one is, of course, online worship, and we've done online worship for a long time. So that really is the center. And what's interesting is it's about doubled from what we typically have, because people are isolated and they're looking for connection and community and hope and faith. And so it's been encouraging to see people turning to the church at this time. So there's really an opportunity for a special ministry in this moment. And then we still run an adult ed class live. So at 10 o'clock before 11 o'clock service, people can tune in. They can ask questions in the chat, although that's hard to read and respond, but we do it live. We have a midweek every day at noon. We have a Bible study. People tune in and they can do a Bible study together. We have a prayer time at 4. People can call in or chime in on the video and do that. Our committees and groups are still meeting. We have small groups that are meeting and do their groups together via Zoom. We're going to do things like chair yoga. That starts next week.
What is that?
It's yoga, but from your chair. So you're not down on the floor, and it just helps you stretch and move, and anybody can do it. So that starts next week. We have a gracious volunteer who's going to lead that for us. We have movie night coming up, and kind of a little baking time live where people can do that together and post your favorite meal that you had this week. So we're trying to create ways for people to do this. We're also creating a care line where people can call. I really think that if we remain isolated for a long period of time, there's kind of a coming mental health crisis with it as well.
Sure.
And we want to make sure people have a place to call, not just for help as far as rent, that kind of thing, but a call because they're struggling spiritually, psychologically, mentally, relationally, and they have people there to talk with them, pray with them. So we're getting ready to launch that as well.
Well, so tell me, that's very intriguing, because tell me more about, like, how is that being organized? You have volunteers. I mean, is it like the old Jerry Lewis telethon where people are manning phones?
On the phone bank.
Yeah, obviously not sitting right next to each other, but how are y'all setting that up?
Well, so with the wonders of technology, you don't have to be in one place. That used to be the way to do it. People can call a central number and it will go to people who are volunteering and will be available on their phones. But it will come, if you call them or they call you, they'll call not your personal number, but they'll call a line set up for that. So that's incredibly helpful. The second
You
thing
know,
is,
which this may be above your pay grade. I know you've got
it
people.
probably is, because I don't know much.
Do you know what technology? I mean, is there a resource that you know of for the rest of us to go, oh, hey, they're using this at Marble, maybe we could use it?
I don't know if it's available outside of Broadview, but our phone system is Broadview, and they have an app called My Soft Phone. And so there's an app on your phone, and if I want to call somebody's extension in our office, I can hit the extension through that app, and it goes to their phone wherever they are in the world. Or if somebody calls our line, like our receptionist, it goes through to his home. He answers on his phone, even though they called the Marble number. He picks it up, and he can transfer it to me on my phone, and it's all just like they're calling our office, all through an app.
Okay.
So it's pretty cool, and it works quite well. Yeah, there's somebody right there. I saw him.
Yeah, that was my son. I think he was out doing some yard work.
But the critical component for us is in starting this is you can't, we used to have a helpline years ago, and it required 50 hours of training. I mean, 50 hours of training to make sure you're ready. Well, we're very fortunate that we have 85 people we've trained as Stephen ministers in the last 9 years.
Wow.
And so Stephen ministers have 50 hours of training, and a lot of it overlaps. So we're really reaching out to our Stephen ministers to say, in this moment, would you be willing to volunteer? Because you have the gifts, you have the passion, the call, and the training to really walk alongside people in crisis. And to be able to do it in this way would be a real gift to the community.
I love that. Good thought there. So, as a matter of fact, we'll probably try to implement something similar. We have a handful of Stephen ministers there, so be interested to see how that progresses at Marble. And again, that's one of the things I love about being connectional, both with my friends from all over the country, all over the world, and within the United Methodist Church, is I get to steal a lot of great, wonderful, Holy Spirit inspired ideas from others like you.
Don't we all? Don't we all? Absolutely.
Well, hey, I know you've got a lot of stuff going on today. I'll let you go, but I do want to ask you. I mean, you're the senior pastor there, following in the footsteps of several, including Norman Vincent Peale, the power of positive thinking. So I want us to end maybe on a note of positive thinking. What are some of the positives that God is drawing out of our current horrible situation?
Yeah, I think, we're realizing how much we need one another. And it's hard because we're realizing how much we need one another in the moment we can't be together. And we're finding all kinds of creative ways to connect with one another. And I think the other thing is that we're really leaning heavily into faith in this moment, in the sense that we really don't want to let this crisis of the coronavirus become a crisis of hope and faith. Mm-hmm. And we can come together, even though we can't be physically present, so that we can have this hope that trusts that we're going to get through this, even though we can't see the way right now. We have this hope that trusts God will help us, even though we don't know exactly what that's going to look like. Mm-hmm. And to be that people of hope, faith, and love in this moment, I think is what's going to get us all through. And I think that's why so many people are turning to communities of faith in this moment. They know they need it, and they don't want to fall to that crisis of hope. They want to move through this as hope-filled people.
Right. Well, good. It's a great word. I appreciate you taking the time today, Michael, to visit with me and give me permission to pass this along and put it out there. It's a great help, and there is hope, and God's blessings on you, your family, your congregation, your community, our world. And again, I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate all that you're doing in the name of God up in New York, and we will continue to press on down here in Texas.
Well, thank you. And we're praying for you too. And it's great you're taking the steps you are. It's really encouraging. You're being a great witness in your community. So we're praying for you, and I so appreciate our friendship. Even though we're doing this for other purposes, it's just great to spend time with you talking.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, I'll let you go, but I appreciate it, and God bless you, my friend.
Yeah, you too. Talk to you soon, Wade.
All right. Bye-bye.